Welcome to the meeting of the San Francisco Public Library Commission for April 15th, 2021. The time is 4:30 p.m. My name is Margot Schaub and I serve as the Library Commission Affairs Analyst. As an ongoing reminder, due to the COVID-19 health emergency and to protect library commissioners, staff, and the public, the San Francisco Public Main Library and the Cret Auditorium are closed. However, members will be participating in the meeting remotely. This precaution is taken pursuant to the statewide stay-at-home order and all proceeding local, state, and federal orders, declarations, and directives. Commissioners will attend the meeting through video conference and participate in the meeting to the same extent as if they were physically present. Public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Members of the public can observe the meeting using the Webex system by following the link in the library's event calendar or by calling local 1-415-655-0001 and entering the access code for this specific meeting. The access code for today's meeting is 1-87006-0335. To make public comment when connected by phone, please raise your hand by dialing *3 when public comment is called to be added to the queue for the specific agenda item you intend to comment on. Individuals joining via Webex should click the raise hand button in the lower right-hand portion of the participant panel in order to be added to the queue. Best practices for all public commenters are to call from a quiet location, speak clearly and slowly, and turn down your television or radio. Each commenter will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. All commenters will remain on mute until their line is open. The library's digital strategist, Bill Kolb, will facilitate this meeting and assist in moderating public comment. Mr. Kolb will call upon members of the public by name or by caller number to prompt each attendee who wishes to provide public comment. The chat function built into Webex will not be monitored by commissioners or presenters and is not intended as a channel for providing comment or feedback to the commission. Commissioners and presenters will not respond to content added to the chat. I will now commence with roll call. Library commissioners in attendance are President Wardell Giarduzzi, Vice President Wong, Commissioners Lee, Mall, Wolf, and Lopez.
Thank you, and welcome to this meeting of the San Francisco Public Library. It is April 15th, 2021, and we want to thank all of you who are attending this meeting remotely. If you have not done so already, all the materials for this meeting are available for download on Library's Commission page of the library's website, which is at sfpl.org. We have a total of 6 agenda items today, so we are going to begin with item number 1 on the agenda and open it up for general public comment. Members of the public who wish to provide general public comment should now raise their hands in order to be added to the queue. If you are using the WebEx interface, click the raise hand button in the lower right-hand portion of the screen. If you have called into the WebEx dial-in number at 1-415-655-0001, please press *3 to line up to speak.
Madam Chair, Operations is checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. If you have not already done so, please raise your hand in Webex or press *3 on your phone to be added to the queue. For those already on hold in the queue, please continue to wait until it is your turn to speak.
Madam President, there are commenters in the queue.
Thank you, Operations. Please begin allowing general public comment.
Caller number 12, your 3 minutes begins now.
I guess I'm number 12. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Bradley Wiedmeyer. I'm a 45-year resident of the city, and I'm very concerned about our branch resources as well as our Central Library. But right now, I'm concerned about the branch in Golden Gate Valley, which is a masterpiece of architecture by Ernest Coxhead, who frankly is more appreciated outside of San Francisco. People are building homes inspired by him in Long Island and stuff, and he's not appreciated here. His other branch libraries in the region have been torn down. San Mateo is one. And unfortunately, his Golden Gate Valley branch is threatened with being reduced in value for us library patrons and users. There's a project that's coming along. I looked on the Planning Commission website. Doesn't seem to be there, but from my understanding, there's going to be additional shadows cast by a construction project to the south. And I'm very concerned about that. You know, playgrounds and school playgrounds are protected in the city. And I hope that the Library Commission will go to the Planning Commission and insist that the same protection to civic resources that need light, like libraries, should be extended to our branch libraries, and that the planning requirements are carried out to the letter, that there be mitigations in the project. If it's apparently it hasn't been even calendared yet, but supposedly it's coming down the line. But also down the road, we should make sure that we don't have shadows, overwhelming shadows cast on our libraries, which many have skylights. The Golden Gate branch has full height windows that cast light. The new teen center would be affected really severely, and so I hope that the library and the Library Commission will speak up and speak out and stand up for library users and patrons and for our architectural heritage with the libraries. The renovation to this branch was the least unfortunate of all the recent renovations. Many were demolitions, but it has a certain achievement there, and I think that we should really protect this branch, especially because it's by the great San Francisco architect Ernest Coxhead and used and beloved by the neighbors.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Operations, are there other commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters in the queue.
Thank you. Would you please put them through for general public comment?
Caller number 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
Good afternoon. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com, also by mail, and there it's P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. I wanted to make some general observations about how the library is functioning, and in particular, the rather appalling claims that have been made by the library administration at times, how the library is the most democratic of institutions. Well, nobody has elected the Library Commission. Each member is appointed by the mayor alone. Nobody has elected the city librarian. He, too, is appointed by the mayor alone. Furthermore, sadly, almost every place there is a major decision to be made, the library completely leaves out the public. For example, where is the needs assessment regarding the services that the library provides to the public, and then how that needs assessment is going to be brought back into operation for the folks who miss the open libraries? There is none that I can see. And further down the line, we're going to have some specifics about reopening. There is no needs assessment. There is no involvement of the public that I have seen. And that has happened over and over and over again. Furthermore, the public is kept in the dark. For example, what about the changes that are planned next door to the Golden Gate Valley branch? Is there a problem with shadowing? Well, this has never been mentioned at the Library Commission at all, and it's going to affect, presumably, members of the public who use that library every day, hundreds of people every week, and so on and so forth. Nothing has been told to the public about something that may well diminish that branch. Why is there no discussion about the unbelievable lack of service? Only one half the locations are open. Other similarly funded libraries have all the locations, for example, Berkeley, and evening hours, as before till 8 o'clock 4 nights a week in San Francisco. There are 0 hours. Not a single location is open after 5:30. And no information is being given to people who are not on email or electronic, and programs as well are basically restricted to people who have computer. There's nothing even to provide information to the non-connected public. Those are all things the library should work towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, are there other commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters in the queue.
Please, would you put the next commenter through?
Marie, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello, I'm Maureen Singleton. I'm the Executive Director of Friends of the San Francisco Public Library. Good afternoon. I'm here to speak in support of the library reopening plan and look forward to seeing the presentation in a bit. Since March 2020, we've asked our library system to do many previously unimaginable things, with libraries working as contact tracers, emergency food distribution, and now in the vaccine efforts. At the peak, over 400 library staff were deployed as disaster service workers. And now as the pandemic gets under control, we still have a significant number still serving in that role. It's clear that the city's emergency response efforts have been very dependent on the incredible work of the library staff, and we're thankful for their sacrifices. And despite the temporary loss of library staff members, the librarians have continued to offer essential services in a safe and efficient manner, with curbside deliveries, references over the phone, and virtual activities. However, we've heard from many passionate supporters who feel very keenly the absence of the 28 branches, and it's reflected in a recent community survey that Friends conducted, understanding how San Francisco's are faring during the pandemic, and about thinking about their library. Of those surveyed, 95% believe that our libraries are essential, like schools, parks, and hospitals. We also found that San Franciscans are really eager to visit the library for in-person services, and 85% of those surveyed said they would use the library service much, or as much, or if not more than before the pandemic, and 75% said they felt safe coming once reopened. Also, another significant finding is that 43% said that they were experiencing significant loneliness this year, and looking forward to reconnecting in person. We recognize that reopening all the 28 branches is going to take some considerable time and effort, and we are here and continue to be in close dialogue with the city librarian and the leadership team to support and help and move along any reopening plan, so that we're prepared to provide the vital services at every neighborhood branch as soon as we can. We are happy to listen and look forward to the plan, and particularly on the timeline set for the reopening and the returning to some normalcy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Operations, would you put the next commenter through?
Caller number 8, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Bridget Maley. I live down the block from the Golden Gate Valley Branch Library on Green Street. And I wanted to alert the Library Commission that on Tuesday, April 20th, the Board of Supervisors will hear a second appeal of the project at 2651 Octavia Street that sits one parcel above and to the south of the historic Golden Gate Valley Library branch. The proposed project is a private residential expansion which will block light to the main reading room of the library. This will result in an irreversible change, a permanent, decades-long change to the user experience of this incredibly historic library. It will impact both the users as well as the staff areas at the interior of the library. There's a group of neighbors who gave very generously to the library for this renovation, for the last renovation. And we are opposed to this private project that will impact our public treasured neighborhood library. We are asking the Library Commission to voice their concerns about the project, or to actually just get educated about the project, which will go before the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday, April 20th. And we ask you, if you need time to review this issue, that you ask the Board of Supervisors to continue the item so that the Library Commission can understand the impact to your own branch library. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Operations, are there any further commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters at this time.
Please, would you put the next one through?
Caller number 7, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, my name is Letitia Yang. I am also calling in regarding the Golden Gate Valley branch of the library. I'll try not to repeat what other callers have already said before, except that I wanted to underscore the significant concern within our community about the fact that there will be a private residential project which will negatively and permanently impact a public resource as important as the Golden Gate Valley Library. For those of you who are familiar with it, and hopefully you've been in the space, it really is a magical space and provides services and a space to people of all ages, from young children to the elderly. It allows people to use computers there, to read books, periodicals, so on and so forth. So it's really a community center that's quite important for our neighborhood. It's, a block and a half from a public school, a block away from a public park. And I just don't think that the planning department has given significant weight to the importance of this public resource. There were some light studies that were commissioned, but from some experts that have also looked at that information and conducted their own studies, it seems like there will be a negative impact beyond what the planning department has made available in terms of information to the public. So I think that certain members of this commission might have reviewed some of those reports that were provided by the project sponsor and by the planning commission, and we believe that there are significant flaws in those reports. Commissioner Wolf, I'll just speak to you directly for a moment because my background is also in the museums, and I worked for a number of years as an intern at the Stanford Museum. I think given your tremendous experience in the arts and in museums, you can certainly appreciate the importance of light to a space. And for people to say in the planning department that this light doesn't matter to the Golden Gate Valley Library, I challenge each of them to visit the space once it's open again, both on a cloudy day and a sunny day, and to tell us that it doesn't make a difference to a visitor's experience. So like the previous callers, I really hope that the commissioners here today will spend more time understanding the true impact of this project on the Golden Gate Valley Library, and to urge the Planning Commission to spend more time and the Board of Supervisors to consider how much this will impact such an important public resource. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Operations, are there any further commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters in the queue.
Thank you. Would you put the next one through?
Caller number 9, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello, this is Candace McKenzie speaking. I want to support what the last several callers have stated about the project at 2651 Octavia. I want to reiterate that this is a private addition involving a full floor plus a roof deck. It does not add an additional residential unit. I'd also like to add what others have said is to remind the Commission that the 2012 renovation included heat exchange windows on the south side and solar panels on the roof. The result was a 25% operating cost reduction. And the renovation, the addition, the height on this adjacent building will negate any of the advantages to the internal environment that these technical additions were made, and it will increase the cost of operating this library. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, would you put through the next caller, please?
Maureen, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, this is Maureen Holt. I'm also a neighbor of the Golden Gate Valley Library, and I'm just going to piggyback on the last three callers who have basically communicated a lot of what I was going to communicate. And I just wanted to remind the Commission that not only does this private residential expansion adds no additional housing units, the bulk expansion of that proposed project will block light into the main reading room of the library, dramatically altering the character-defining features of that historic public resource permanently and to the detriment of users. It'll change the experience of being in that incredibly beautifully lit room, naturally lit room. Natural light is very different than artificial light. And for the planning department to say that the light can be compensated by having electrical lights on rather than having the natural light coming through the windows is kind of a ridiculous comment. Significant shading onto the solar panels as well will render them ineffective, cutting off the renewable energy supply and increasing the library's carbon footprint, which, there were obvious efforts made to reduce that carbon footprint in 2012 when the renovation to the Golden Gate Valley Library was completed. As a number of the other callers have mentioned, there is a group of neighbors and concerned San Francisco residents who have organized to oppose this private development project that will impact our public, historic, beloved building. And we should all think very carefully before we allow a size and volume expansion of a private residence to have a negative impact on a public space that belongs to all San Franciscans. Private developers should not be allowed to negatively impact historic public resources for personal gain. Again, we are having a hearing at the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, and we would appreciate and welcome anybody who would like to come and join in public comment, and for the Commission to learn a little bit more about what that Board of Supervisors hearing is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, would you put through the next caller, please?
Madam President, at this time, there are no additional commenters in the queue. I'm going to pause for a moment to give additional commenters the opportunity to raise their hand should they like to make a comment at this time. Madam President, I don't see any additional commenters at this time.
Thank you. Hearing no further requests for comment, general public comment is now closed. So we are going to move on to item 2 of our agenda, which is a resolution for a Ramaytush Olani land acknowledgement statement for discussion and possible action. The San Francisco Public Library Racial Equity Action Plan is part of a citywide mandate of the Office of Racial Equity, ORE, which was created in October of 2019. The ordinance for that is number 188-19. This is a division of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, also known as the HRC. Phase 1 of the plan includes 7 categories of work, which focus on internal programs and policies, the workforce, and boards and commissions. The Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement is in the boards and commission section of the document, Action 716 of the plan, and reads, pass a resolution on the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement. This land acknowledgement is an important next step in our racial equity work. Joining us today is Greg Castro, Association of Ramaytush Ohlone Principal Consultant, who will tell us more about the importance of this acknowledgement, why we need to elevate traditional knowledge, and how we can partner with him, the American Indian Cultural District, which is also known as AICD, and the Ramaytush Ohlone community, and for the library to show our long due respect to the original caretakers of this land. It also aims to clarify that in our efforts toward racial equity, we remember the original people of the land, which the city and county of San Francisco inhabits. But first, I will read the resolution in its entirety with the land acknowledgement, which included consultation with and approval from the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and the AICD. Whereas the San Francisco Public Library Commission, also known as the Library Commission, acknowledges that the Ramaytush Ohlone are the original peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. And whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the area comprising the city and county of San Francisco was originally inhabited by the Yelamu, an independent tribe of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, and whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the Association of the Ramaytush Ohlone has actively worked to research, expand public awareness of, and preserve Ohlone history and culture, and whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples have survived the brutalities of colonialism, enslavement, genocide, discrimination, racism, gender-based violence, theft, forced assimilation, and other atrocities driven by local, federal, and state government. And whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the gaps in history of the community is caused by colonization, and that the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, as original caretakers and storytellers of the Yelamu, have maintained balance with nature for millennia. And whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that it is impossible to fully understand the history of San Francisco without acknowledging, recording, and understanding the traditional history and knowledge and practices of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. And whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples are not a mythical population of the past, but an integral and active community in the present San Francisco Bay Area region and beyond, whose ongoing exclusion and invisibility deny the greater Native American community's inclusion and respect in San Francisco. And whereas the Library Commission acknowledges that the city and county of San Francisco was founded on unceded territory, and that the existence of the city and county on this land continues to contribute to the erasure and exclusion of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, the American Indian community, and their history. And now, therefore, be it resolved that to acknowledge the truth of the lands and the people's history is a human right and a demonstration of honor and respect for the contributions and sacrifices of the Ramaytush Ohlone ancestors that inhabit and care for this land before us. The Library Commission will state the following land acknowledgement at the beginning of each commission meeting. The San Francisco Public Library acknowledges that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We recognize that the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and have maintained harmony with nature for millennia. We honor the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples for their enduring commitment to Warep, Mother Earth. As the indigenous protectors of this land and in accordance with their tradition, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. As uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. We recognize to respectfully honor Ramaytush peoples, we must embrace and collaborate meaningfully to record indigenous knowledge and how we care for San Francisco and all its people, and be it further resolved that it shall be the policy of the library to develop a protocol for when and how an adapted version of this acknowledgement might be read at department meetings and events, both publicly and internally. And further resolved that the Library Commission's land acknowledgement is just the first step needed in acknowledging and honoring the land, culture, wisdom, and contributions of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. And be it further resolved that it shall be the policy of the library to establish a relationship with the Ramaytush Ohlone, to engage in a meaningful consultation process, to understand their unique needs, concerns, and knowledge as the original caretakers of Yelamu, and be it further resolved that it shall be the policy of the library to engage with the San Francisco American Indian Cultural District and other American Indian stakeholders to inform the public about American Indian resources available at the library, as well as elevate American Indian knowledge, concerns, and expertise through materials, public programming, exhibits, and displays, both at the library and digitally. And be it further resolved that it shall be the policy of the library to engage with the Ramaytush Ohlone, San Francisco's American Indian Cultural District, and other American Indian stakeholders to review library resources, identify those damaging to the image of the American Indian, educate staff about these discrepancies, and promote resources that portray an accurate representation of American Indian culture, especially as it is related to the local community. And be it further resolved that the San Francisco Library Commission urges all boards and commissions in the city and county of San Francisco to begin each meeting with a land acknowledgement, which was approved by the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone. With that, I would like to welcome Greg Castro for his remarks.
Madam President, this is operations. Just wanted to state that due to some technical challenges, Mr. Castro joined as an attendee, and I'm going to call on him and unmute his microphone and allow him to speak at this time. Mr. Castro, your microphone is unmuted.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hershatuhi, greetings in the language of the Ramaytush ancestors, and I'm Greg Castro, and I'm very honored and appreciative to be invited to be here to speak and to hear that quite solemn and eloquent and long resolution. And I thank you very much for that resolution being offered up. In the midst of all that, verbiage, I think it's important to remember the essence of what we're doing here, and that's in finding truth in history. A lot of the history of California, of the San Francisco Bay Area, has been hidden, sort of like by the fog that encompasses our bay. The fog of history has covered up a lot of what happened before, including the history, the knowledge, and the acknowledgement of the original people, the Ramaytush, in the Bay Area, San Francisco Peninsula area. So I welcome this opportunity to have a moment to share with you that we're still here. There's very few of us. There's very little of the culture here, but of what we do know is that we are still the caretakers of this place. We look at it as it's not a right, but as a responsibility. And we welcome every opportunity, such as you're offering us here, to acknowledge that, to collaborate and work with you in order to fulfill that stewardship obligation that was given to us by Creator. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, for it, as specifically the library, a place of knowledge, a place of gathering of documents and of sharing that knowledge. I think you have a unique opportunity and responsibility that we're looking to work with you on in filling those gaps that have existed for far too long.
Thank you so much, Greg, for your remarks. Now, Tom Fortin, Chief of the Maine, will highlight some of the work the library has begun through this partnership.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, hi, I'm Tom Fortin, Chief of the Maine Library, and it's my pleasure to share a few notes about how we hope to develop community with the American Indian Cultural District and to create a space at the Maine Library where patrons can learn about American Indian heritage and culture and how we can serve as a community center that will provide culturally relevant education, art, and information sharing programs in an inclusive and safe library space. To begin, we recently held a meeting with representatives from the AICD to forge a partnership, and we at the Maine are committed to the next steps to include assessing our collections. The Maine houses tens of thousands of items in print and media specific to topics of interest when learning about American Indian heritage and culture. We plan to conduct an assessment of our collections across the floors at Maine, both adult and youth collections, and by looking at items through a critical literacy lens, we can highlight materials for their accurate information and cultural understanding. Also, we will work to identify gaps in the collection and will work with our selections teams to resolve any identified problems. We are already at work through the San Francisco History Center, and I would like to note that Susan Goldstein, City Archivist and Manager of the San Francisco History Center on the 6th floor at the Maine Library, is already at work with the AICD, assisting their researcher to help identify archival collections of interest, including access to the Alcatraz Indian occupation records, LGBT and Native American activist Barbara Cameron's papers, and other relevant collections, such as our city directories and resources to track Native American community gathering places over time through San Francisco's history. Also, through our Maine youth centers, it's important to note that our children's librarians understand that critical Indigenous literacy is important when supporting youth learning and have received training specific to encouraging youth to read between the lines and ask questions when engaging with literature. And unique to the Maine, we offer special exhibits locations and performance spaces. One recent example of how our exhibition staff worked with community partners was when we teamed up in late 2019, just before the pandemic, to showcase the Occupy Alcatraz exhibit in the Skylight Gallery on the 6th floor. And of course, everybody misses the Corette and our performance spaces in the atrium. But when we meet again in person, the Corette is a local favorite for readings, lectures, and performances. And the Maine also uses the atrium and our outdoor spaces to facilitate performances of all kinds. We will also coordinate with community programs and of course our branches. So this work is not only being done at the Maine or only with Maine staff, but always with our partners in community programs and partnerships, the collections and technical services team, staff in our branch libraries, and the American Indian Cultural District. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Maureen Singleton, the Chief Operating Officer for the library. I want to take a quick moment and this opportunity to thank all of the stakeholders that have been involved in creating the land acknowledgement resolution before you today. In addition, I really want to thank all of the partners that are involved in building out this important relationship with AICD as well as the Ramaytush Ohlone elders. Specifically at this time, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Greg Castro, Sharia Souza, Jesse Rodriguez, Jason McCannell, Shauna Sherman, Margot Shaw, and all of the library staff that are going to be very integral to the development of this partnership and the maintenance of this partnership. I'd also like to thank the Commission President, Dr. Mary Wardell Garaduzzi, for reading the resolution in its entirety and for all of the work that lies ahead of us in working together in this partnership. Just a reminder, as you know, this is an action item. So after public comment and Commission discussion on this, we will be asking the Commission to take action, and we respectfully ask approval of the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement Resolution. After that, some of the next steps include continued engagement on our partnership and then creating a process to read a modified version of the acknowledgement at other library meetings and programs. With that, this concludes our presentation. Tom Fortin, Shauna Sherman, our partners are all available if you have questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Maureen Singleton, for that, as well as Tom Fortin and everybody that's been involved. And now we're going to move into our public comment before our commission discussion. Operations, are there any public commenters that are in the queue?
Madam President, there are commenters in the queue.
Thank you. Would you put the first commenter through on this item?
Caller number 12, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello, caller? You're on the line.
Yes, so sorry, I was mute. I want to thank the commission and all the participants in the statement. It's really important. It's a beginning. But, you know, I am a little bit disturbed that it's about things and not people. You know, we need to have living employees of the library who can embrace and share the knowledge with people from the Native communities in San Francisco and the rest of the population. I think that there should be positions included in this as part of the acknowledgement that we need to do more. Of course, an academic expert on Native culture is important, but an actual person from the community is even more important for the community as well as the rest of San Francisco. I think that's very important that there be a working class aspect to this, not just a top-down and thing-based approach. As a person from the LGBTQ community, you know, we've had collections and things into the library, and there certainly are a lot of individuals in the library who are from our community, but some of these collections have not even been addressed and cataloged and made available for our community and the rest of the city to address. So, you know, we can do better. And I applaud the effort. It's such an important step. But the working class living members of the Native community of our city need jobs, as well as many other working class people. And who better than people of the Native community to be employed at the library? There was no discussion of nurturing the living presence of experts from the community about the community, sharing with the rest of the community. I just read the fabulous book on slavery by a scholar, a white scholar at Cornell who's from the South, but he attributes his sensitivity and his ability to address this topic because of the African-American teachers throughout his education. And, you know, it's the same in so many other communities, that the voice of the communities who are oppressed need to have a living resonance and a living presence and an ability to inspire both the community and those who are allied with the community, so that we can move forward, and we can move forward as a united group of classes, not just the top-down and institutional approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, would you put through the next commenter on this item?
Caller number 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
Is that me?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and by mail for those who have privacy concerns or are not connected, as many people are not. P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94111, 7-0544. I very much appreciate what the previous speaker has said, and also some of the things that have been said up until now by the library. When I read the beginning of each commission meeting is supposed to mention that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, it struck me, well, maybe we should give it back. And by that, I don't mean to be clever, but the cost to the library in actual effort seems to be very kind of hazy. So the first thing I want to say about what is a reasonable thing to do that has an impact on patrons would be, first of all, I appreciate Mr. Fortin's presentation very much, and I'm very happy to hear that the first thing he said was to do an assessment of the collections, assessment of what exists currently, and then to see where the gaps are. That's exactly what I was talking about in my earlier public comment about the lack of an assessment of what all the services are of the library and what it is that the library has provided and is not any longer and needs to provide for its patrons, including, for example, evening hours. In any case, two things that struck me as very relatively easy and certainly could be done in collaboration with the presenter, Mr. Castro, and the group, is reading lists or information lists, if you like. For example, it could include movies, if there are any that would be useful for somebody who wants to at least get a start to familiarize themselves with what's going on. And the other thing is, I'm rather disappointed. It talks about having a relationship with the American Indian Cultural District and so on, but there isn't anywhere on this contact information, and I would like very much if the presenter, Mr. Castro, could be allowed to give contact information for his group and for the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone, so that those of us who might be more interested in getting more information or getting whatever reading lists and other things they have, so that we can make contact with this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Operations, are there other callers in the queue?
Madam President, there's an additional commenter at this time.
Thank you. Would you put the commenter through?
Naima, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me because it's different. I think you can.
Yes,
It's me again. Hello, hello. You know, what would a commission meeting be without me piping in? I just wanted to call and say how this this move, I don't know, it's for lack of a better word at the moment, adopting respect for the Ramaytush and the land that we sit on and function on every day wherever we are in this country, be it Ramaytush or Native or Indigenous, or I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong term. I'm not well schooled on that, but I just want to say this is one of the things that makes me really proud about being on staff at San Francisco Public Library. I have watched the amount of effort and consideration that has gone into adopting such a resolution over the past, I would say probably the last 2 years now, or 2+ years, based on us not having or being or adjusted services over the last year. And I just want to, I'm just so glad that this work has continued throughout all the madness, for lack of a better word, that we've experienced over the past year, and that this is a priority, and taking care of our people of color and recognizing and seeing people of color and the contributions that we've made, be it Indigenous people that have shared their land with us, or those of us that were brought here to make the land better for those that get to live in wonderful places. And so I just want to say kudos to all of the staff, librarians and library staff alike, who contributed to this process. And I look forward to seeing our programs grow and our informational resources expand as we reopen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, are there any further commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are no additional commenters in the queue at this time.
Okay,
I'm going to pause for a moment to give folks another opportunity to raise their hand if they haven't already done so. Doesn't appear that there are any additional commenters at this time, Madam President.
Thank you, Operations. Hearing no further requests for comment, public comment is now closed. So I'd like to turn this over to the Commission to have a discussion on the contents of what you've heard on this agenda item number 2, which is the acknowledgement and the resolution for the Ramaytush or Ohlone land, as well as just overall historical, cultural, and community acknowledgement. I'm going to just get in my browser here so that I can actually see whose hands are up. I have it right now. It's looked like it's showing. It's not showing that, so I'm not able to quite see hands that are raised. I could probably only see them until I figure this out.
Madam President, I don't currently see any.
Okay, all right. I needed to click the participants thing at the bottom, but I don't see any hands raised either. And so at this time, there was a request made by Maureen that we move forward and take action on this particular agenda item. And so is there a member of the commission that would like to initiate any action?
This is, oops.
Sorry, go ahead, Connie.
I would like to support the resolution to require to support this resolution and to move it forward.
Okay. Is there a commissioner that would like to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Wolf to accept the resolution and the land acknowledgement, and we have a second by Vice President Huang. I'm going to call the remaining commissioners by your name, and we're going to do the roll call. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Mall?
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Lopez?
Aye.
And looks like the last one is myself. President Wardell Garaduzzi is aye. And so the resolution passes. And congratulations to all of us, as well as to the people that worked on this important work. So we're going to move on as the motion has passed unanimously. So we're going to move on now to the third item on our agenda, which is the SFPL reopening plan. And I'm going to turn this over to City Librarian Lambert.
Thank you, President Wardell, and good evening, Commissioners. I greatly appreciate this opportunity to provide the Library Commission and our public an update on library staff's efforts to reopen our library system. Next slide, please. As outlined in the memo in your packets, library services have gradually been reintroduced to our patrons over the course of this past year. With the opening of the Portola Branch Library as an SFPL to-go site last Tuesday, the library now has 13 locations in operation and restored services in every supervisorial district in San Francisco. Regular bookmobile service is being routed to Treasure Island, the Mission, Ocean View, and Richmond neighborhoods. Several libraries, Western Addition, Ingleside, North Beach, Richmond, Golden Gate Valley, Ortega, Sunset, Visitation Valley, and Bernal Heights branches remain in operation as community learning hubs for the remainder of the SFUSD academic year. Library accounts and information services are being provided by telephone, chat, and email through our telephone information program staff, as well as by branch remote reference and remote circulation teams. In January, we added multilingual phone lines in Cantonese, Mandarin, Spanish, Filipino, Russian, Japanese, and Vietnamese. And our virtual programming has been extremely robust. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the positive trajectory of SFPL to-go openings since last August. We're looking forward to opening the Potrero branch in District 10 and West Portal branch in District 7 at the end of the month. That will get us up to 15 locations. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, our SFPL to-go sites are spread throughout the city. Blue dots on the map represent SFPL to-go. Purple dots show Ortega and Visitation Valley, the two sites that provide SFPL to-go and community learning hubs concurrently. The 5 red dots on the map reflect our SFPL to-go service, which is provided by our mobile outreach service team and our bookmobile fleet. They bring SFPL to-go service to the Mission, Ocean View, Richmond districts, and Treasure Island, as I previously mentioned. We've made steady progress restoring access and enhancing geographic coverage throughout the city as our staffing capacity has increased. Next slide, please. Last month, you may recall that we shared our intention to reduce the quarantine period on return materials from 96 to 24 hours. Since the last commission meeting, our trusted colleagues at the Department of Public Health issued updated guidance for the retail sector that enabled us to completely eliminate the quarantine on return materials. So we did implement this change on April 6th, and this change in workflow has already significantly streamlined the back of house operations and expedited the processing and turnover of high demand titles. We've had some positive feedback from the public already who has noticed their holds fulfillment has improved. Next slide, please. Now that I've shared where we've been and our current operational status, I'm pleased to report that library staff is making preparations to resume some limited in-person services for patrons to be able to return physically inside our facilities. These planning efforts are consistent with the phased reopening plan first shared with the Library Commission last October. As you know, the library is currently operating within phase 2 of this plan's framework, which is contact-free SFPL to-go service at select locations. The library is now poised to move into phase 3, limited in-person library service at select locations. This prospective resumption of in-person services will be contingent upon the local public health order being updated to list library services as an allowable activity. I anticipate such a change will be forthcoming as the city makes further progress on the health indicators like the virus reproductive rate or the number of COVID cases. It remains to be seen at what capacity we would be allowed to resume in-person services, but we will be proceeding cautiously to protect the health and safety of staff and our public. Once we know definitively, the library will be working closely with the Office of the City Administrator to seek approval for revised health and safety plans for our library locations. Next slide, please. Again, we do not yet know the capacity or the number of patrons that we'd be able to accommodate inside our facilities, but our facilities division staff has compiled the square footage for all of our libraries and calculated building occupancy at 25, 50, and 75% so that we will be prepared. Next slide, please. Another focal area will be getting staffed up after holding scores of positions vacant for the past year. The library currently has 136 position vacancies, and this includes frontline public services staff, custodians, and security. This represents 15% of our staffing capacity. And now that libraries will be reopening in earnest, we've already started opening up positions for reassignment and seeking position approvals from the Department of Human Resources and the Mayor's Budget Office to fill these position vacancies. The library will also need to continue working collaboratively with the COVID Central Command and the city's Department of Human Resources to support the city's continued need for disaster service workers. We are still very much in a public health emergency, and library staff continue to fulfill numerous critical functions around the city. We currently have 149 library staff deployed through April 30th. That's more than any other department of city government. I understand many of these workers will be extended again through the month of May and potentially beyond until other staff can be hired to fulfill their functions for public health. This represents a little over 17% of our workforce, but I do want to assure the Commission that the library will continue to optimize all of our available staffing and gradually enhance the level of service as we fill positions and see the return of our staff from their DSW activations. Next slide, please. As our SFPL locations are reopened, we will continue to work with the City Administrator's Office to revise health and safety plans for each location. Staff and patrons can be assured that whatever level of service the library offers, all proposed operations will first be reviewed and approved with the careful attention of the City Administrator in accordance with the Department of Public Health's guidelines and alignment with the health directives. The library will continue to invest in PPE for all of our staff and have other equipment and supplies to make our patrons' experience safe. For example, we'll have keyboard covers and sanitizing wipes available at our public access computers, and hand sanitizer available as patrons enter our facilities. Next slide, please. Underpinning our efforts to prioritize health and safety is our internal worksite safety monitors work group. These individuals work at our SFPL to go locations, and they have been instrumental to the success of our reopening to date, with 3 times a week, weekly meetings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. These staff members are the point persons at every site, well-versed in the site-specific health and safety plans. And all library personnel are provided localized training as they return to work and contribute to standing up more locations. We've also benchmarked other urban libraries and gathered useful scripts that we've been able to tailor for our own purposes for mask compliance and engaging with patrons. Next slide, please. The library is being intentional in our reopening plans to prioritize health and safety as we pilot limited in-person services at the main library and select branches. We will be enforcing mask compliance. Our buildings and grounds patrol officers will take the lead in engaging with patrons who need a gentle reminder before they enter or while they're inside our buildings. The community will largely be self-policing itself with regards to physical distancing. However, our security will be prepared to intervene if we encounter any issues, and we'll have signage posted to help educate our patrons on proper utilization of the library. Next slide, please. Patrons will be limited in what services are accessible in this phase, and they won't have the ability to lounge or use the library as a quiet space for study or work as they have in the past. They will also be time limited for accessing available services. Next slide, please. Our facilities team has been hard at work preparing our spaces for reopening. As I mentioned, we have hand sanitizing stations for the public, and thanks to the generous support of the Friends and Foundation of the San Francisco Public Library, we've acquired sneeze guards for installation at all of our public service points. We've also removed seating at our reader tables. We will have restrooms available for library patrons who are in the facility accessing library services. Now, at this time, I'd like to transition the presentation over to our Chief of the Maine Library and then the Chief of Branches to share more details about our plans to reopen the Maine Library and our pilot branch sites. Tom Fortin.
Hey, thank you, Michael. I'm Tom Fortin, Chief of the Maine Library, and I would like to begin by thanking Maine staff and the library's reopening committee for helping to shape our draft reopening plan for the Maine. The plans have changed from when we first started talking about a return to in-person service over a month ago, and will likely continue to evolve even a bit more as the library continues planning up until we open the doors. At a high level, I want to point out that we are following the guidelines laid out in the SFPL phased reopening plan that Michael mentioned earlier, and we are working closely with staff from the Department of Public lost my notes. Department of Public Health and our custodial and security teams for their support as we get ready to browse and bounce. For the Maine, this is what we are thinking so far. We are hoping to open the service soon, sometime this spring. And it is, as Michael said, just access to the first floor only at the Maine Library. It will require restricted capacity according to the public health orders and our revised Maine Health and Safety Plan. And to help everyone, patrons and staff, to feel safe, services will be limited to 1 hour time limit in the space, no seating at reading tables, no meeting rooms, and no in-person programs. I would like to highlight that we will continue our successful SFPL to go service at the Larkin entrance. This was a staff-led decision to keep that service going, recognizing the efficiency and success of the service since it opened last August. And our patrons report often that the staff have offered great customer service. There's no lines and easy pickup of holds. We will continue to offer to go while we begin browse and bounce inside on the first floor. We will staff the information services desk. Staff at that desk will be available for quick reference questions and can make patron referrals for more in-depth reference by email or phone to the subject specialists on the upper floors. Also, the borrower services staff will assist with registering new patrons, making library cards for our new e-card users and anybody who wants to register for a card, and helping to resolve account issues. We will have public computers available. Socially distanced public internet computers will be available on the first floor, and we will have access to a laptop installed with adaptive technology. The access to reservations for the public computers will be managed through a new reservation software that we have, and it will manage the timeouts. I think probably the most popular aspect of hearing about Browse and Bounce is on the first B there, the browsing the collections. And for the first time in too long, patrons will have the ability to come in once again and browse the stacks in our first floor fiction, genre, and Lucky Day print collections, and to browse for media in the AV Center. And we will highlight special collections that are pulled from the upper floors in our runway area on the first floor for people to browse some nonfiction titles from the upper floors. And just recently, due to the closing of the Mission branch for renovation, the adult fiction Spanish collection from the Mission branch has now been relocated into the Maine's genre room, so that will also be available for browsing. And then after finding materials of choice, patrons will be able to use our self-check machines, and they will have access to our automated return system, which offers printed receipts. Also important, because it's only access to the first floor, we will offer a paging service. So with assistance from the information services desk and in coordination with staff on the upper floors, we will pull circulating items on demand and deliver them to patrons waiting in the atrium level for checkout. I would also like to highlight the good work that's happening now in the SF History Center. And we have piloted a reference service by appointment. So staff in the 6th floor History Center have been successfully piloting a by appointment only in-person research assistance with access to our archives for a couple months now. And this service has proven safe and successful and likely serve as a model for other floors as access to the buildings expands in future weeks. And hopefully, following the positive trends in managing the pandemic, the city will continue to expand its reopening. And in turn, we hope to open access to the Children's Library on the 2nd floor in an additional week's time, to be followed by the Mixed Teen Center and the upper floors in still the next few weeks' time. Next slide, please. To reiterate or to recap, patrons will access Browse and Bounce at the Main Library through our Grove Street entrance, where they'll be welcomed by Main Library staff and assistance from our security team. We will maintain the to-go service on Larkin, and our to-go holds pickup service will continue with support from our security team and also with an outreach table staffed by the Maine's social work team. New for us, and because of our limited capacity with an hour time limit for patrons in the building on the 1st floor, we will likely have to queue patrons up outside the Grove entrance. And with one line for computers and one line for browsing and other services, we will monitor building occupancy and will try our best to give patrons access in an organized process, much like many retail establishments have done over the course of the pandemic. Next slide, please. Because of requirements for social distancing, we will make 10 first floor computers available in this first phase. Reservations will be required with a library card, and patrons can make reservations over the phone or over the web. They can make them over the phone by calling our telephone information program, where staff can assist and make advanced reservations for patrons. I want to mention that we are providing Wi-Fi access now at the main library to the outside spaces. As we have now for a couple of years, we will continue to project free Wi-Fi out on Larkin, and we are now piloting a new Wi-Fi access point on the Fulton side of Maine. For patrons' printing needs, in just the past month, a new printer and copiers have been installed on the first floor that will serve and offer a simple, low-touch printing process for people using the computers on the first floor and for anybody needing to make a copy, and printing will be free. And for the safety of our patrons and staff, of course, we will provide socially distanced self-check machines and a separate queue at each of the machines. And finally, as Michael had mentioned, signage in these spaces and messaging on the web will be critical to our success. And for signage, we've nearly completed a Browse and Bounce signage package with our public affairs staff that will include all the city's required public health messaging, especially around masking and social distancing and safe spaces, as well as our own Browse and Bounce messages describing the limited services patrons can expect in this first phase. And now to share information about similar planning efforts underway in the branches, I would like to introduce Kathy Del Neo. Next slide.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kathy Del Neo, the Chief of Branches. Soon after the Maine Library launch of in-person service, we will begin our Phase 1 pilot of in-person service at the Chinatown and Mission Bay branch libraries. Chinatown and Mission Bay are SFPL's only branch libraries with full building HVAC. Mission Bay's generous open floor plan makes it a great place to test this service. Chinatown is our largest branch and has our largest Chinese language collection, so it is an ideal location to restore in-person library service. By the end of June, we hope to launch a second phase of pilot branches with in-person service, opening the door to the public of our Excelsior, Visitation Valley, Ortega, and Richmond branches. These Phase 2 pilot branches were selected in order to bring in-person services to all corners of the city, and these branches were selected with an equity lens. The census tracts near these branches ranked in the highest 30% of need based on the following equity considerations: lower educational attainment, linguistic isolation, poverty, unemployment, the digital divide, and high numbers of Black, Asian American, Indigenous people of color. Visitors to our Phase 1 and Phase 2 pilot branches will receive very similar services to those that Tom just described at the main library. So briefly, I'll just give you a quick list. They'll be able to do self-service holds, pickup, and checkout, use limited number of public computers socially distanced to access the internet, and to print. They'll be able to get quick reference help from librarians, and they'll be able to browse our library collections. Our branches that provide in-person service will be open 5 days per week initially, mirroring their current schedules. So at Chinatown, Ortega, and Visitation Valley, those branches will be open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Our Richmond branch is going to transition from being a hub to being one of our in-person sites, which is great because we've really wanted to expand service to that Richmond community. They're also going to be on a Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. schedule. Our Excelsior branch will be open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Next slide, please. My team in the Chief of Branches office has heard from many community members who are really eager to see library service restored in more of our branch libraries. We are also eager to restore that service, and for that reason, we're really excited to share with you that after the school year finishes, all of the sites currently serving as hubs will resume providing public library service. As shown on the prior slide, the Richmond branch is going to transition from a hub to an in-person service location. Our Bernal Heights, Sunset, Golden Gate Valley, Ingleside, North Beach, and Western Addition branches will transition from hosting hubs to providing public service as SFPL to go locations. As staffing is available, the branch division will be moving to restore library services to all of our neighborhoods throughout the city. And it's our goal to bring either SFPL to go or in-person service to every branch library by late summer, fall 2021. Next slide, please. Last month, we let you know about the formation of our staff reopening committee. Since that time, this dedicated group of staff has been meeting weekly to help library management successfully plan the implementation of library services adapted to our current environment. The reopening committee has provided input that has informed the public messaging and signage we'll use at our in-person sites. In the coming weeks, reopening committee members Shima Avalos, Stephen Lee, and Kathy Cormier will be working closely with our public affairs team to develop FAQs for the public about our in-person services. The reopening committee has also provided input into the very early plans for branch reopening that our Chinatown and Mission Bay branch managers developed. Those branch managers are Eileen Kuo, Chao Huang, and Melanie McCallum. The reopening committee will continue to work with our expanded team of branch managers and circulation supervisors from all 6 of our pilot locations to further refine our plans. I also want to give a really special shout out to Shima Avalos and Naomi Jelks, who made significant contributions to the revised reopening plan, the phased reopening plan, which is among this meeting's explanatory documents. Shima and Naomi came to the document with fresh eyes and brought a staff perspective to this high-level document that outlines our plans for reopening all of our libraries in the coming months. I think I can speak for Tom Fortin and say that both he and I are grateful for this opportunity to collaborate closely with staff from throughout our organization in developing plans to reopen all of our libraries as safely as possible. And now I'm going to pass the mic back to Michael.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kathy. And I just want to echo Tom and Kathy's sentiment to express appreciation for all the staff involved in this planning effort. It involves the entire SFPL village, all the divisions, all the staff in custodial, security, HR, IT, finance, certainly the main library, the branches, our public affairs unit. I really appreciate everybody's hard work. It's been very difficult to close down a library system as robust as San Francisco Public Library and then have to figure out how to gradually resume services with limited staffing. But I'm proud of the team. And in summary, library staff is excited to be on the cusp of reopening our libraries for in-person services in the coming weeks. We look forward to announcing a firm date once we progress a little further with our planning efforts. We are very close, and I recognize it's been a long 13 months for our community who misses their libraries, and I want to assure our patrons that we'll be welcoming them back inside very soon. So thank you, commissioners. That concludes the reopening plan presentation, and my team and I are more than happy to address any questions.
Thank you, City Librarian Lambert, and all of the leaders that shared that very robust report on the reopening of SFPL. We're going to now go to our public comment on this item. Operations is going to let us know if there are commenters in the queue. Operations, is there anyone waiting to give a comment?
Madam President, there's presently one commenter in the queue.
Please put that commenter through.
Miriam, your 3 minutes begins now.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but there was another background noise.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, but it's reverberating now.
It's in your system. It's not here. That noise is not on my computer or where I am.
I recommend all the panelists mute our microphones and then the public commenter can try again. Operations, we need to unmute Ms. Mueller's microphone again.
Miriam, your 3 minutes begins now.
Okay.
If you are calling on the phone and on the computer, you're getting feedback.
I am not on the phone. I am on the computer.
Perhaps if Miriam turns the volume.
Can you hear me? I have been getting a lot of noise on the listening, and when I try to speak, apparently the noise is also coming through. I'm trying to use the computer, and it works fine for Zoom, but it's been a bit messy for...
Perhaps she should turn her volume down on her speakers on her computer. Turn the volume down to reduce the feedback. Ms. Mueller, another option would be to, mute your microphone and your speakers on your computer, and then call in through the telephone number and offer public comment that way.
Madam President, I've muted the commenter as that doesn't appear to be a productive exercise at this time.
Okay. Operation, is there any further commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters in the queue.
Would you put the additional commenters through, please?
Caller 17, your 3 minutes begins now.
Good evening. My name is Diane Gibson. I'm a resident of San Francisco. And first of all, I want to thank everybody from the library involved, both in what sounds like heroic efforts to put together a very, very thoughtful plan to reopen first the Maine and then the other branches. I'm very glad to see this because I have been very concerned in that it seemed that it had been taking quite a long time for the branches to reopen and the Maine to reopen, particularly in comparison to the reopening schedules of some other Bay Area libraries. I'm sure the folks involved with the library know exactly what those other comparisons are. I understand that much of this has to do with the very unique and difficult staffing issues that have been caused by the seconding of so many of the library staff to disaster work, and all that work is applauded. So this all sounds terrific. I'm very interested in hearing in the near future as much as can be provided in terms of strong and somewhat reliable predictions about when other branches are going to open. The fact that the Maine is first makes perfect sense, and it'll be terrific to have it available, but so many people can't get to the Maine, and that's the reason that there are branches, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on that, but the sooner the better to get as many branches open, even in some sort of a limited capacity, so that people can actually physically be in the libraries, work with the librarians, and begin to have more of a feeling of normalcy about how they are able to use the libraries, and also to not feel that, well, my friends in the East Bay or my friends in Marin have the libraries open, and why is it that I don't have an explanation for why we're still, limited to SFPL to go, terrific though that may be. So again, kudos to everyone, and thank you so much. I can't wait until I can set foot inside a library or two or three. Appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you so much for for that comment. Operations, are there any other commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there is an additional commenter in the queue.
Would you please put that person through?
Caller 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield from Library Users Association. You certainly sound like you are looking for and deserve E for effort, but I have to say that what we desperately need is not so much whether you're putting signs up and all those mechanical things, but a patron-centered perspective. That I do not see. So as an example, when you closed on March 13th with practically no notice, just a few hours, you suddenly cut off how many thousands of people who rely on the library for a computer? They were thrown, myself included, into a complete void with no help whatsoever from the library as to what one might do as a substitute, about getting a computer, about renting a computer, about finding places to go, and so on and so forth, or getting computer support if you have one, and so on. No help whatsoever. So let's look at some specific things that this simply still does not address with respect to patron service. The first thing is communication. You're not communicating with the 20,000 people that when I last checked you have on your mailing list. I've gotten 2 letters in a year plus, and that's all. So which new branches are going to be open and when? No information whatsoever from the library. Changes to, for example, the quarantine. No information from the library. And on in that fashion for the folks who can't access. I was at the Maine library at one point. There was a nice young black man who was trying to get a library card, and he was told he can't. He can't get a library card in person. That seems to be changing, but that's crucial. There are plenty of people, especially poor ones, and especially the minorities, who have less access to computers, older people and poorer people. Where is the service for them? More and more there are books that are not even available as books, but only electronically. What about having materials from branches that are closed available in the collection for use? What about having branches that are closed available for dropping off books when you're through? What is the deal with copies? What are people supposed to do with copies? Are they going to be free from now on? What about hours? The hours haven't been discussed. 5:30, not a single minute of later hours in the evening. Reference materials completely not mentioned and off the books. And periodicals and newspapers are not mentioned either. There's some very limited access, but it needs to be greatly expanded, especially
3 minutes.
In light of what's going on in the internet. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, are there any further callers in the queue?
Madam President, there are additional commenters in the queue.
Please put the next one through.
Caller 25, your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi there, it's Naima again, and I am calling in to speak on the reopening plan. And I just wanted to comment on the prior caller who asked a lot of great questions about different services and fees and hours. And those are all the things that we are working on and discussing in the library. We have the same concerns. We have the same questions, and we are working hard to get our libraries open. That said, I wanted to point out that we need to do so with extreme care and caution for the staff that will be serving you when we return. Keep in mind, many of these people, as the head of the Friends of the Library just mentioned, 400 of us have been deployed over the past year out there. We left over a year ago, a year and a half ago. We walked out of the libraries and went to serve our city and are still doing so in so many beautiful ways. These people are excited to come back. We've been fighting to come back, but we also need to breathe and take a moment and reacclimate and recognize that many of us have not been able to deal with some of the stuff that other people who have been able to stay home during this time or work from home during this time. The staff, not just librarians, work at the library. We have all kinds of staff at the library: security, facility, engineers, frontline staff, circulation, people that have to put the books back and everything. There is so much work that goes into this, and we are fighting to get it all done. And we appreciate our community that's advocating for us to get there. But also, please remember that we are humans too, and we need the space to do this in the right way, the best way we possibly can. Thank you so much for your respect and time and love for our libraries. It's our profession. We're here and we want to serve you, and we want to be loving towards you when you come in our doors and are able to meet us again for the first time in so long. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for letting me rant.
Thank you. Operations, would you put the next caller through, please?
Caller 24, your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you. My name is Marty Goddard, and I'm the library's Access Services Manager. And I want to first say thank you to Michael Lambert for the wonderful report of most of the work that's been going on while we're closed. And a real shout out to Tom Fortin, who's providing wonderful leadership for us in the Maine and keeping us all very well informed. I'm calling to give a shout out tonight to the staff in the Talking Books and Braille Center. As you know, that is an award-winning team, and since about 2 months after closing, that staff has been providing full services for all of our patrons who can't read print because of a variety of disabilities. They began by calling every single registered patron on the phone and just making sure that they didn't feel isolated and making sure that they stayed connected to the library. Through this time, they've continued to send books to not only National Library Service patrons, but to other people in San Francisco who are homebound due to disabilities. And I'm just very proud and by the work that they've done through all this time. Sorry, I'm nervous. And thank you all for the work you do on behalf of the library.
Thank you. Operations, will you put through the next caller?
Caller number 5, your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to speak to some concerns. Hearing the presentation, there was a lot of information, and I understand there's a deliberate, we want to open, there's an urgency to open, but I also think it's important to do a hard pause or a hard stop when we're about to open during a pandemic. I can't speak for other cities. I don't know about that, but I can speak to this city and some of the dynamics at play. When we're considering opening the library, there were things shared. I'm looking at it from a safety standpoint and the virus. So I think it's fair to say that this virus, we know 6 feet social distancing, good hygiene, and masking are things that keep it at bay. And now we're going into a new phase with people coming into the building. This is not like going to a supermarket, people buying something and leaving. There are restrictions. There were things shared about it'll be limited to 1 hour. So the devil's in the details, right? Who's limiting it to 1 hour? Whose job is going to be doing that? The safety of our patrons and our staff is primary. This is a essential point of labor. And I think when we're looking at these dynamics, commissioners, as you're reviewing these plans, it's imperative that you look through that lens. Opening now, I understand, again, is urgent, but it's not so urgent that we can afford to overlook certain details. I think the statement was made that library staff are excited. Yes, we're excited to be with our patrons again. I miss my Ocean View patrons. There's no doubt about that. But I would feel I would feel very bad if something happened because we didn't turn over every stone. See, clarity is always first and foremost. Clarity in your vision, clarity in how things are to be enacted, right? So, for example, how are people going to be counted when they come in? Who's going to be doing this? So I think commissioners, when you're reviewing this plan and shortly after the public comments are over, put it under the microscope. Take a look at it critically. Use the skills that you've engendered over the course of your careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that comment. Operations, can you put the next caller through?
Madam President, at this time, there are no additional commenters in the queue. I'm going to pause briefly to allow any additional potential commenters to raise their hands.
Operations, I'm going to invite Ms. Mueller to try to offer her public comment again. Hopefully her echo has resolved itself. Can we unmute Ms. Mueller and give her an opportunity to offer public comment once more?
Ms. Mueller, your microphone is unmuted. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
good.
you.
Okay. I'm calling to urge you to leave the Bernal Heights branch at the top of the San Francisco Public Library to Go list. It's been used for a hub. I assume that's ending on June 2nd. If the Board of Ed wants to continue, there are 3 public elementary schools within walking distance of that library. At this point, the nearest library is and will continue to be the Excelsior branch, which is 2 buses away. Our local grocery store has dedicated parking spaces for people who are coming and going. The Excelsior branch, at least as a week ago, did not. I urge you very strongly to get that kind of parking space in front of any library that's a to-go thing. About 1 out of every 3 times I try to get to the Excelsior branch, I can't because I can't park within 2 or 3 blocks of it. So we'll be glad to be able, and by the way, if you no longer need to quarantine return materials, you should be able to permit people to return materials to the Bernal Heights branch as of now, which would make life a lot easier for you, I suspect, as well as us. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for hanging in there. I'm so glad the technology worked out. Operations, are there any further commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are no additional commenters at this time.
Okay, hearing no further requests for comment, public comment is now closed. So we're going to move into our commission discussion on agenda item number 3, which is the reopening plan of SFPL. Commissioners, this is your time. There's no action to take. It's just really opportunity for you to ask questions, to get clarification, to make commentary as such. Yes, Vice President Huang.
Thank you. I just wanted to repeat a theme that I've returned to over the last year, which is it is so hard to pull together these logistics, right? Unless you have been in that seat and weighed all the different factors and all the data and all the different directives that you've been given over time by different people, it's going to be easy for you to criticize any plan and give any feedback, but that's all you can do, right? One of the charts I was reacting to was the staffing capacity that we had available. There was a chart that showed the total number of staff that we had and the percentage that was allocated towards essential services, non-essential services, sick leave, whatever it might be. And I don't know if we have a chance to flip back to that graph, but the orange bar, the graph showed from January, the start of the year, through today. And that orange bar is a critical one. It was the number of staff that was deployed to as DSWs. And I'd actually love at some point, maybe in the next year or so, when we have a chance to kind of like look back on, do a retro on the library's impact to responding to COVID throughout 2020 and 2020.
Am I having
don't know that, right?
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can. I thought I may have had my internet may have gone down for a moment.
It's probably me, so
Okay.
please bear with me. But anyways, I don't have a particular question, but I just wanted to say that it's that type of information that only few people have access to, because there's just so much going on that only those people can weigh all those different factors, right? So anyways, I think it's just a testament to, again, the just how dynamic the situation has been, and a testament to the leadership's ability to digest all that information in real time and make the most informed decision. As much as even us on the commission, we want to stay informed, right? Unless you're, again, literally sitting in that seat, and only a few people are doing that. Only then do you really know sort of all the different things you should be weighing in order to make the.
Thank you so much. That was Vice President Wong. I'm going to go ahead and call Commissioner Lee, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I want to thank the reopening committee. Working out, to me, it seemed to be a very optimal plan, if you will, with stakeholder from the staff side as well from the leadership side. And I also want to thank Naomi and Marty, who called in and added their perspective as well. And furthermore, the public comment on number 5 that you can see, people are concerned about safety. And so with all these, it seems to me that there are enough, at least what I can hear and what I can observe, that this plan is as optimal as it can be, taking into consideration of so many different perspectives. So I just want to thank really the committee doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Lopez.
I want to acknowledge all the work that the committee has been doing. This task has not been easy. I think that the whole nation and have to deal with different circumstances, and we're still not out of this pandemic. And there's so many things and little details that we need to take into account that I really, coming from a public institution, I know how hard it is, how our, having more than half of our staff working in jobs that they didn't sign up for and yet responding. So I do understand that, it might not be a perfect plan, but it's as close as we can get with the knowledge that what we have and the services we provide. The library is not like one of the public commenters said, it's not a grocery store, it's not a school. It encompasses, it brings so many services and it does so much. It has a little bit of everything. So, yes, we will be monitoring the progress, and I think that the committee has done an excellent job at, just looking at everything. So I just want to acknowledge and commend them. Yes, we the same way that we adapted to a pandemic that we were not expecting, the same way we need to adapt to the new changes. So I just wanted to say that, and thank the committee for all their hard work.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lopez. And so I don't see any other commissioners' hands. And so I think that's, we're going to bring a close to this particular commission discussion on this item. We just want to thank you all. It was very robust. And we want to thank you for all the work you've taken it to bring us this far. And we know that we have good news to look forward as we go into the summer and we go through the summer as our libraries start to open again. So now let's move on to the item agenda, our next item, which is a discussion. Well, actually, it's the city librarian's report. This is where our city librarian and staff make announcements, share library happenings, and kind of give us an update of just the actual activities of the library itself. So I'm going to turn it over to City Librarian Lambert.
Thank you, President Wardell. I have a number of items to share this evening, and I'm pleased to present our first presenter. Michelle Jeffers is our Chief of Community Programs and Partnerships, and she has an exciting update about San Francisco's 8th and newest Poet Laureate, Tongo Eisen-Martin. Michelle?
Thank you, Michael. Michelle here. Michelle Jeffers, Chief of Community Programs and Partnerships. Sorry about that. I'm so excited that we are finally coming to the time for our 8th Poet Laureate's inaugural address. This is an event that we always do with each Poet Laureate for the previous 7. It's always unfortunately been in person in the Correct Auditorium in years past, but I'm looking forward to a really wonderful event this upcoming Wednesday night at 6 p.m. on Zoom with Tongo. In his own unique way, Tongo has invited a group of friends and family to join him for what he is calling a collective inaugural address. I don't think we'd want it any other way. It's truly a Tongo Eisen-Martin event. And so I hope you can join us there to hear some wonderful poets from around the world speaking with Tongo that night. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Looking forward to that one. All right, our next presenter is the library's digital strategist, Bill Kolb, and he'll be sharing a presentation about our new internet management and printing application. Bill?
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, commissioners. Taking off my driving the Webex car hat and putting my digital strategist hat on here for a moment. And I'm here to talk to you about an exciting development in the library's public computer time management and print service offerings. Next slide, please. These services that we offer, allowing patrons to use public computers and to print, copy, scan, fax, previously have been supported by 5 disjointed systems. Those were Envisionware for the computer time management, by which patrons book appointments, and then their time is regulated on the computers, and staff is able to assist them. Another piece of this this mishmash was the Konica Minolta multifunction devices that provided copying, scanning, and faxing. They had a sort of a clunky user interface and were hard for staff to support. Another component is the ITC vending component, whereby patrons were required to purchase a print and copy payment card in order to then retrieve their print and copy jobs. And another piece was Printer On, which was kind of a clunky service that we had for patrons to print from the cloud from their personal devices. And with a lot of limited efficacy, you could only pick up these jobs in certain places, and it didn't always work. And there was a weird app that didn't always wasn't intuitive. And there's also always been, unbeknownst to most folks, an in-house built and managed back-end printing network and server solution that IT staff has sort of lovingly maintained for years and is lovingly letting go at this point. It's been fussy, and it's been a lot of work for that group to maintain it. Slide, please. So we're replacing all of that with one enterprise solution. It's called Today's Business Solutions, TBS for short. which is just so you know, all of the various components of DBS recently were awarded with the Platinum Award from the 2021 Modern Library Awards. Again, I think it's the third year running that all of their products have won this award. It's a 21st century solution for all of this. And we're excited to get it off the ground. In fact, pieces of it already have been launched. Slide, please. This is the new interface that patrons are going to be using to make their copies, release their print jobs, do scanning, send faxes. It's a much more user-friendly interface, easier to use. The support device that all of this rests on is ergonomic, and it's a sort of a sit stand that's custom built for the product. These stations feature high-speed scanners in addition to a flatbed scanner, so that patrons can still do book edge work. And the touchscreen interface is, in fact, a touchless touchscreen, which is kind of hard to wrap your brain around. But you can actually interact with the interface without touching the screen, which we think is important for patrons to feel that they're being made safe while using our equipment. It's also incredibly accessible. There are a lot of language features and text changing features on that screen, so that patrons with differing abilities will still be able to use this service. Slide, please. So some of the benefits to the patrons, I'm not going to read this slide to you, but there are many, and I didn't list them all here because I didn't want to have like 14 slides in this presentation. But some of the most exciting things that we're excited about with this package are the cloud printing. It's a lot easier for patrons, and that's the piece of it that's already up and running. We've actually launched, what are we calling it? Print and Go. Patrons can currently send print jobs from their personal devices or from their home computers to the library, and then go to any of the SFPL to go locations and retrieve those print jobs from staff. Currently, that is free of charge, and we've seen an uptick in demand for that. I know that's been some pent up need over the year that we've not been allowed to bring people into our building. So we're happy to get that back in people's hands. As I mentioned, the Scan Easy stations are very user-friendly, accessible, ergonomic, fast. They're going to be easier for patrons to use, and that means that it's going to be a lot easier for staff to support these devices. And the less time that staff has to spend fumbling with a printer means the more time that staff has to pay attention to another patron concern. Some of the nice things about the Scan Easy station: you can preview and manipulate your prints and copies before you pay for them, before they print out. This alleviates one of the major stressors on staff and patrons that we've experienced, which is this is not what I wanted moment, when something prints out and it's not the thing that the patron wanted. Well, we're gonna get to skip all of that, because they'll be able to see it before they tell it to print. As I mentioned, there is a touchless screen. We have gotten rid of the print and copy cards. It's a pay-as-you-go solution. So if folks, previously we would have patrons sometimes lose their print and copy cards, and they'd have $10 worth of value on there, and that's just gone. Well, that's not really an issue anymore. Also, the payment kiosks support cash, coin, credit, debit, Apple Pay, and Google Pay. So it is, in fact, a true 21st century solution in that regard. We also aren't charging people to fax things anymore. Previously, that was $2 for the first page and $1 for each subsequent page. Because we're able to do all of that service over an internet protocol, we don't have to charge for it anymore. So we're not going to. Also, scanning is going to be a lot easier, because you don't have to fumble around with a copy card. Even if you're not paying for anything previously, you had to put a card in just to make the scanning work. That's no longer an issue. Also, the same credentials that patrons use to log into the computers are the ones that they're going to log into the print station to release their print jobs. So there's no more forgetting what username you told the system you wanted to use and the password between sending the print job and going to release it. It's just your library card number now. Slide, please. Benefits to staff, as I mentioned, this whole thing is going to be so much more intuitive for our patrons to use that staff is not going to have to be involved in as much in the process. Not that they don't want to help, because they obviously always do. It's just that they won't have to as much, which is nice. Another benefit for staff is that there's a single portal to log into. So staff will log in. They'll be able to help patrons manage their computer reservations, the additional time that they have, and any challenges that they're experiencing with printing, all from the same spot. Which makes it a lot easier for staff. They don't have to bounce in and out of different products in order to provide the same sort of service that they always have. It is a true enterprise solution. Many of you probably don't know this, but when we implemented Envisionware, it required one server per library location and one server for each floor at the main library. So we've taken that 30 some odd server solution and compressed it down into one. So there's a cost savings for the IT department. It's also a lot easier to manage one server than it is to manage 35. So anytime we make a change in the amount of time that people can use the computer or how the printing is working, we only have to touch one server to make those changes, which is really beneficial for the IT staff, and it's another thing that they don't have to spend as much time babysitting. It also allows for staff at all locations to easily view and manage reservations and print jobs for patrons at every location. Previously, it was sort of siloed, and you could only help people, at the branch that you were sitting in. And now you can help them make reservations at other locations a lot more easily. I could go on, and I do in other meetings, but I'm not going to do that to you tonight. So that is all I have to say about TBS for tonight. We're going to be ready to go when the libraries reopen to welcome our public in person. And as I mentioned, some of these functionalities are already in action. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Bill. This is a real win-win for our staff and our patrons, and a wonderful service enhancement on what has been a historical pain point. So I'm ecstatic this is ready. I'm going to move on to our next presenter. Our final presenter today is Leah Hillman. She is the manager of the 4th floor of the main library, which includes the Business, Science, and Technology Department. Leah is going to be highlighting our Work It programming series. Leah?
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. Good evening, commissioners. As Michael said, I'm Leah Hillman, 4th floor manager. The last time I presented at the Library Commission meeting in September 2020, the Business Science and Technology Department had just launched Work It virtual programs. Our focus for the past 6 months has been supporting job seekers, career changers, personal finance, and small business. We started off cautiously, not knowing what the programming landscape would be like and how our audiences would respond to our offerings. Next slide, please. Over the past months, the momentum for programming built and our attendance numbers skyrocketed. A comparison of the same 6 months over the last 2 years demonstrates the need, interest, and enthusiasm for library programs focused on these topics. In this slide, you can see that the attendance numbers have more than doubled, and in the case of jobs and careers programs, they have tripled. Our patrons are ecstatic with the offerings, with feedback such as the following. This is my 3rd time attending a financial education workshop at SFPL. I'm beyond impressed with the series, and especially the list-in workshops. The information in your financial golden years was excellent for my purposes. Heather answered things I've been trying to understand for ages. It's incredible that such a wide range of information was covered, from the basics to complex ideas. I feel empowered and excited about what I learned. Having an accessible expert team like Zoe, Heather, and SFPL And the fact that Heather is a professor so good at handling questions and communicating in plain language made it like a mini university seminar for lay people. I'm very grateful to the Listons and SFPL. This is a real public service. Kudos, my highest gold star rating. The next comment was, thank you, SFPL. You are making a huge difference in my life. The library has been indispensable, especially during this past year. Another comment was, I really learned a lot that will help in designing my LinkedIn profile. Really appreciate having events like these. So helpful in networking and especially now. This month, we're celebrating National Financial Literacy Month with a whopping 28 programs. To do this, we've cultivated strong partnerships with the Office of Financial Empowerment and Balance, the Department of Human Resources, the Employment Development Department, Jewish Vocational Services, Better Investing, Reference Solutions, Candid, Legal Aid at Work, and Financial Planning Association. We've also established new partnerships with Operation Hope and expert professionals specializing in education, law, finance, and careers. Next slide, please. And now, if you're not thrilled already, I would like to share my excitement by introducing you to our new business science and technology librarians. Angela Yam, our jobs and careers specialist, Kirsty Harless, our small business specialist, and our freshly minted personal finance specialist, Doreen Horston. They bring new ideas and fresh energy to the department. Kirsty joined us in February and has immersed herself in all things small business. She writes the newsletter for the department with an open rate of 34%. Next slide, please. And has created an Instagram account to post resources for and encourage connections between small business owners. She already has over 100 followers in just little over a month. Next slide, please. Angela just joined us at the beginning of the month, and she is rapidly learning the departmental lay of the land. Doreen will join us in May. Next slide, please. With the expertise of our staff and program volunteers, together we will elevate the knowledge and skills of our community and help San Francisco survive, thrive, and work towards economic recovery. Thank you again, Madam President, Library Commissioners, Michael, for supporting our activities, and a special shout out to Tom Thornton and Katrin Reimuller for their unswerving devotion to supporting our staff and allowing us to raise the bar for all. Thank you.
Excellent, Leah. Thank you so much for your leadership, and congratulations to Angela, Kirsty, and Doreen on their appointments. This really demonstrates the power of libraries to support our community and the resilience of our community as we navigate this economic recovery. And that concludes the City Librarians Report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to go into our public comment on this item. We're going to ask operations to see who's queued up, and we'll have our first commenter go live. Operations, is there anyone in the queue?
Madam President, at present, there are no commenters in the queue.
Just hold on. Let's wait a second.
Someone just raised their hand.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that commenter through, please.
Caller number 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and also by mail at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. I hate to use valuable time to say this, but I appreciate that you have recognized a problem with accessing public comment and are providing a few seconds for folks who may not realize that they are not in the queue to make themselves known to be in the queue. That's something that's very important when it's impossible to tell where you are at every moment, as you can do when there is a podium and you're either lined up or you're not lined up. With respect to some of the presentations, I'm glad that we're having a poet laureate, but I have to say that I'm really appalled that the library does not help people without access to a computer, and there are over 100,000 people, according to a city report, in the city without any access. You are not making it possible for people to get the phone access that they could have if you would inform them. And all of these virtual programs, or almost all of them, have no clue when you look at the library's website that if you don't have a computer, you can still participate. And that information ought to be on every library. That information ought to be mailed to people. That information ought to be online. And it's not. That's appalling and outrageous. And it totally cuts out a whole group of people who might otherwise quite easily take part in your programs. With respect to the new computer and print management system, when the previous or current, from my perspective, thing went in, I believe we said it was a disaster. And all through these many years, and I think only Commissioner Ono is here from that time and can remember, I've been telling people when I've tried to help them or they've asked me, you need a PhD in copyology to figure out how these things work unless you're working 40 hours a week with them. So it's music to my ears, but many years late to hear all the problems with the old system. I think it's appalling that you have had no public input, evidently, no solicitation for public input on the new system, and I expect fully that there'll be lots of problems. Certainly it sounds like you've solved a bunch
3 minutes
already. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, are there any commenters in the queue?
Madam President, at this time, there are no additional public commenters. I'm going to pause for a moment to allow any potential commenters to join the queue. Madam President, no additional commenters have joined the queue at this time.
Thank you, Operations. Hearing no further requests for comment, public comment is now closed. Pulling up my agenda here, and the next item is item number 5, which is the approval of the minutes from March 18th, 2021.
Madam President, I hate to interrupt you, but did you want to allow for any commission discussion?
Oh, yes, please forgive me. I didn't realize that we didn't do discussion on the city librarian's report. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Yes, and I see Commissioner Mall. And what we are doing right now, go ahead and unmute yourself, Commissioner Mall, okay. And we're going to have a discussion on the city librarian's report. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that new print program just sounds unbelievable. And it's just remarkable that there's a program that can do everything that that's supposed to do, that is free and available to all the citizens of San Francisco. Number one, and number two, the work education finance component is fantastic. Also, that it's free and available, and the library, I think, more and more is really becoming just a central focus in all the lives of San Franciscans, not just taking out a book and returning the book, but offering so many services. It's really quite wonderful.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mall. Commissioner Lee.
Right. Yes, I echo Commissioner Mall's comment, particularly on the printing one. I have, because for people who have to fax documents, for example, in the health documents, very often the recipient will only be accept the health documents on fax. I mean, that unfortunately is just that particular industry. So I'm glad to see that this is being offered. One question that I have for Bill is that it says that log into the computer. Does it mean that one can do it from home? Another second question is it just a computer or could it be from a mobile device to use this printing service?
Commissioner Lee, this is Bill. The cloud printing service is available to patrons from a home computer, a tablet, a mobile phone, pretty much any electronic device that you can send a document from. You can send it into our cloud printing solution.
So if I would imagine, that means that we can just log into our library card and log into the sfpl.org, and then we can direct whatever the document that we have to the cloud service, or the document that we need to fax to a dental office or what have you, and we can just do that.
So let me be explicitly clear at this point, Commissioner Lee. Faxing, copying, and scanning are not presently services that are available to the public, because those all involve the public being in the building and actually physically touching the devices. And right now, the only service that we are able to offer during the SFPL to go phase is the cloud printing component. So if you wanted to print something, you don't log in at sfpl.org. There's actually a link on that page from the printing and scanning service that will take you to a portal where you can submit a document for printing.
Okay, great.
And there's an FAQ on our webpage with instructions on how you can complete that, or you can speak to friendly and helpful library staff at any time that the library is open.
Great. Well, in that case, at least that has gotten a long way. Thank you. I want to echo Commissioner Moore on the Work It program, particularly the personal finance one that has got a twofold increase, and people would really make their life a lot better instead of getting more into debt. So that is a very, very good program, helping people to avoid falling into the debt trap. So wonderful program, wonderful. Keep looking at this to provide solution to the patrons. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Wolf.
Thank you. Of course, I echo my fellow commissioners who have spoken, but I just wanted to emphasize or acknowledge the incredible and effort that the staff is making to be patron focused. I feel like everything that we've talked about today, from SFPL to go to opening the branch, of making things now more accessible with a plan for the future of opening in-person services, feels so patron focused. And I just want to thank you for always keeping that at the forefront of everything that you're doing. And at the same time, I just want to acknowledge the staff in their creative, amazing abilities to pivot so quickly and consistently to make these services available, and to not lose sight of the role that the library plays in the lives of every person living here in San Francisco. So thank you to the remarkable staff for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the commissioners. Is there any other commissioners that would like to make a comment?
I don't see any, Madam President, but I did want to note that it looks like Dr. Lopez has dropped off, but we still have a quorum with 5 commissioners.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. So seeing that there's no other inquiry for or comment, the commission discussion is finished, and we'll move on now formally to agenda item number 5, which is the approval of the minutes of March 18th, 2021. Commissioners, this is an actionable item.
I move that we accept the minutes March 18th.
Before we can do that, we're going to have to go to the public comment.
Sorry.
So I was just saying, reminding us that it is actionable, and Susan, Commissioner Mall will be waiting for you when we're done with the public comment.
Okay.
Okay. Operations. We're going to go into public comment. Will you let us know if there are any commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there is a commenter in the queue.
Would you put the commenter through, please?
Caller number 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
Good evening. This is Peter Warfield again, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and also by mail at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117. And the reason that I give these ways to reach us is because in a real meeting in person, anybody in the room could certainly come up and say, I liked what you said, I disagreed with what you said, let's have a cup of coffee or anything like that, and vice versa. And that's not possible remotely. With respect to the minutes, and I did want to say something about the apparent responses to some of the things I've said. I have never said that the library staff is in any way deficient. In fact, I usually praise them. Most, if not all, of the things that I've said have to do with management. Is management sending letters to the people who don't have computers? Is management enabling people to take part in the Poet Laureates program, for example, or other programs by phone, which already exists on Zoom, but they're not making anybody who needs it know what's going on? These are not criticisms of the integrity or of the devotion or efforts or anything else about the staff. And it's not a personality thing. It's a management thing. And it's what are you providing for the patrons, and are you including the patrons in any way with what you're planning? With respect to the minutes, agenda item number 1, general public comment. I said that there were over 100,000 people, not in the world, not in the United States, in San Francisco who don't have internet access or easy internet access. I think that's important, otherwise it's a meaningless statistic. Then I also talked about the lack of providing information for folks. He said they don't have computer access to learn of programs that exist and of new things happening at the library, like another branch opening for curb service and so on. And I think you should add to that what I've been saying all along. So you should inform them by sending them letters. That's within your power and something that you could do and should do. Just simple equality for information access to folks. On public comment number 2, I didn't just say people could agree with me or say hi or get a cup of coffee. They might also disagree, and I'm certainly happy to hear that as well. Otherwise, these minutes generally are quite good. Appreciate that. And I don't have any further comment except at the end I talked about Ferlinghetti, and I quoted from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and I thought that was actually quite interesting and should be included. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, are there any other commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there are no additional commenters in the queue at this time. I'm going to pause for a moment to allow any potential commenters to join the queue. Madam President, no additional commenters have joined the queue.
Okay, hearing that there's no further commenters in the queue, general comment is now closed. Okay, commissioners, what action would you like to take on the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes for March 21st.
Okay, Commissioner Mall has made a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
John Lee, seconds.
Okay, I heard Lee say second, so Commissioner Lee says second. Okay, all those that are remaining, I will do a roll call. I'll call you by name. Vice President Huang,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
and if Dr. Lopez has fallen off, the last one is myself as an aye. The motion has passed unanimously to approve the minutes. And so now we are going to go to our final item, which is adjournment. But before we adjourn, let's go to our final public comment for the evening. Control, are there any, operations, are there any commenters in the queue?
Madam President, there is a commenter in the queue.
Thank you. Would you put the commenter through?
Caller number 6, your 3 minutes begins now.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com. Also by United States Postal Service, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117. As I've said before, and we'll say it again, the library used to, and many commissions and other bodies still do it as a routine matter, and I believe it's in Robert's Rules of Order. You should have, at or near the end of a meeting, an item that is reserved for commissioners to say what they would like to take up at a future meeting. Some issues that might come up, problems that might come up, public comments that might come up, or even among your own discussions. I would, for example, comment, if nobody was suggesting it, that you review the history of the painful copy system that you have had in the library for I don't know how many years, since the existing clunky system, to use phrases that have been used, have been in existence and torturing the public and, frankly, the staff with a whole lot of babysitting necessary, because the simplest functions are no way simple under the old system. And in my view, that was because the library did not include members of the public in any fashion, as other libraries do when they introduce new technology, to try it out, see how it works, see how the options work, see how other products work. We've heard today a wonderful cacophony of complaints about the old system, which we've never heard, other than we've heard silence when we were saying how awful the copy system was. We've heard it was a mishmash with a clunky user interface. We heard that there were problems of all kinds. I mentioned that there are privacy issues, which I hope this new system solves, and that is people printing stuff from the same computer and getting in each other's way, and possibly even getting angry with each other because they're thinking, why are you making copies of my material that I wanted to print out? So there's a whole range. Michael Lambert, I think, said it very nicely, historical pain points from the old system. And it concerns me that your method of approach is the same as last time, and I don't doubt that there will be pain points on this one, partially because you have not included the public in any way whatsoever, and I think you should much more. Thank
3
you.
minutes.
Thank you. Are there any further commenters in the queue, operations?
Madam President, there are no additional commenters in the queue at this time. I will pause to allow potential commenters to join the queue. Madam President, no additional commenters have joined the queue.
Okay, hearing that there's no further requests for comment, our final public comment is closed. Commissioners, we are here to adjourn. May I have a motion?
I move that we adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolf, and a second.
I second.
Second. Yep.
Okay, we're going to give that to Commissioner Mall because. Okay, I'm going to call your name, and when I call your name, for the remaining ones, just say aye, or aye or no. Commissioner Huang, Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
and I guess I'm with Dr. Lopez gone. I'm the last one, and that is a unanimous passing of the motion. And this meeting of the San Francisco Public Library Commission is adjourned. I want to thank everyone that stayed with us to the end. It was a very robust meeting, so much good information. Thank you to all the SFPL staff, the ones that presented and the ones that were behind the scenes, making sure that the information that was presented today was on point. I thank you so much to all of you that worked on the acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement, and we look forward to making that a permanent part of our living library commission meetings to be able to say that. So thank you all so much. It's been a long evening, but it's been a very good evening. So thank you.